For 3 years, I had been the secret lover of my stepbrother, Gabriel. We existed in the shadows, a hidden romance tucked away from the prying eyes of our family and society. I thought patience was the key, that eventually, our love would be brought into the light. But then came the arrangement. Our parents had set him up with a match, a perfect Omega named Lucas who suited him in every conceivable way: status, wealth, and reputation. Gabriel accepted the match without a moment's hesitation. That evening, he knocked on my bedroom door. The wood vibrated under his knuckles before he pushed it open, stepping into my sanctuary with a heavy, suffocating presence. He looked at me, his expression unreadable, and delivered the ultimatum that shattered my heart. "As long as you don't make a scene, Joseph," Gabriel said, his voice low and devoid of guilt, "our relationship can stay exactly as it was before. Nothing has to change." I nodded obediently, just as I always did. "Okay," I whispered, my voice barely audible. I didn't tell him the truth. I didn't tell him that I, too, had been arranged to be married. My intended was the heir to the wealthy Sief family, a man named David. The rumors about him were vicious. They said he was crippled in both legs, and, more devastatingly for an alpha, that he had no fertility. He was a dead end in a lineage obsessed with legacy. Our first meeting had been cold, transactional, and brutal. We met in his study, the air conditioning humming a low, artificial chill. David sat in his wheelchair, looking at me with eyes that seemed to have seen too much darkness. He tossed a bank card onto the desk between us. It slid across the polished mahogany surface and stopped right at the edge, directly in front of me. "There is $10 million in that account," David warned, his tone dripping with gloom and disdain. "Don't nurture any delusions that just because we are married, I will mark you. And certainly, do not ever dream that I will fall in love with you." 3 months later, I found myself staring at a medical report, the paper trembling in my hands. The silence in the room was deafening. I was pregnant. David looked at me, his gaze deep and impenetrable. His voice was dangerous, vibrating with a low, threatening growl. "Is it mine?" he asked, tilting his head slightly. "Or is it someone else's?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. It took me back to the moment Gabriel had shattered us. "Joseph, don't be difficult," Gabriel had said that night, his eyelids half lowered, masking his true feelings. "You know in your heart that I have to get married sooner or later. But that person," he raised his eyes then, looking directly into mine, and finished the sentence with cruel precision. "That person will never be you. As long as you don't make a scene, we can be together forever." For 3 years, that was the phrase I heard the most. Don't make a scene. I wanted to hold his hand in public. Don't make a scene. I was drunk and wanted him to pick me up. Don't make a scene. I wanted to tell our friends we were in love. Don't make a scene. I had heard it so many times that the words had lost their meaning, becoming nothing more than a leash to keep me in line. Even now, with his engagement to Lucas looming, I was expected to stay silent. I pulled the corners of my mouth into a smile, though I knew it looked ironic, perhaps even bitter. I didn't say a word. Gabriel frowned, noticing the shift in my demeanor. "What are you laughing at?" "Nothing," I said softly. I looked up at him and shook my head, slipping back into the role he had crafted for me. "Brother, I'll be obedient. I absolutely won't make a scene." The relationship Gabriel spoke of was our secret. To the outside world, he treated me strictly as a younger brother. Just a stepbrother. Nothing more. Seeing that I was as submissive as usual, Gabriel finally smiled. He reached out and gently patted my head, a gesture that used to make my heart race, but now felt patronizing. "I knew you were the best, Joseph. You're always so good." Yes, whether as a brother or a lover, I was always the most obedient, the most well-behaved. It was a pity that obedience and good behavior were useless currencies in this world. Gabriel's phone rang, cutting through the moment. I glanced at the screen and saw the name Lucas flashing. It was the Omega he was engaged to. They were already in contact. "Go to sleep early," Gabriel said, already turning away from me. He answered the phone as he walked out, his voice dropping into a warm, polite tone I rarely heard directed at me these days. I turned back to my room and closed the door. The click of the latch felt final. I didn't go to sleep. Instead, I pulled my suitcase from the closet and began to pack. Today at noon, it wasn't just Gabriel who had his fate sealed. My mother had informed me of my arrangement with David, the CF family heir, the man who lost his legs in a car accident and was rumored to be a sterile alpha. They hadn't discussed it with me. They had informed me. It was a requirement, a business transaction to secure family ties. But in a way, it was a relief. After this, I could finally end this shameful, hidden relationship with Gabriel. Gabriel didn't come home that night. I finished packing and sat on the edge of the bed until the sun began to rise. When I went downstairs, I ate breakfast alone. It wasn't until I was finished that Gabriel walked in from the outside, looking fresh and unbothered. Not eating much, Gabriel asked, looking at the almost untouched plate of breakfast on the table. He frowned with feigned concern. "You're too thin, Joseph." As he moved closer, a strange pheromone scent drifted into my nose. It wasn't his. It was floral, sweet, and unfamiliar. I realized then that Gabriel was wearing the same clothes as yesterday. His collar was unbuttoned slightly, revealing a reddish mark on his neck. It was a hickey, only half hidden, the other half exposed to the air as if silently declaring a victory to me. I took a subtle step back, creating distance between us. "I'm full." Gabriel looked a bit helpless at my withdrawal, but didn't press the issue. He simply reached out and habitually rubbed my head, marking his territory. "All right then. If you get hungry later, ask Mrs. Higgins to make you something. I'm going up to get some sleep. Don't call me for lunch." I lowered my eyes. Okay. To anyone else, this interaction would look like a caring older brother looking out for his sibling. To me, it felt like a knife twisting in a wound. I waited until the house was silent. When I was sure he was asleep, I went upstairs, grabbed my large suitcase, and walked out the front door. No one noticed. No one cared. I called a taxi and gave the driver the address my mother had given me. When I arrived, I stood outside a massive iron gate, my oversized suitcase looking pathetic beside me. I checked the address one last time to be sure, then reached out and pressed the doorbell. A few moments later, the gate buzzed and clicked open. No one asked who I was. A servant simply appeared and led me inside, across a sprawling, manicured lawn. We walked for what felt like 5 minutes before reaching the main residence. The butler, a stern man with graying hair named Mr. Henderson, led me to the second floor. He stopped in front of a door. "Master Joseph, this is your room, Mr. Henderson said professionally. "The room next door belongs to Master David. If there is nothing urgent, please do not disturb him." I nodded. "Okay, I understand." It seemed this CF family heir was not easy to get along with. I sighed deeply as the butler walked away. I was in someone else's territory now. I would have to live with my tail between my legs. I didn't expect to see David so soon. I went downstairs after unpacking and froze when I saw him in the living room. I stared for a moment too long. It was no wonder so many Omegas were desperate to marry him. Money was part of it, yes, but his appearance was striking. He had sharp, aristocratic features, dark hair, and an intensity that demanded attention. He was sitting in a wheelchair. When he realized I was staring at him, his brow furrowed in displeasure. I blinked. Was I being despised already? Still, it was our first meeting. I decided to be polite. I walked forward and offered a small, tentative smile. "Hello, Mr. Sia. I'm Joseph. I'm your Omega." As soon as the words left my mouth, the living room fell into a dead silence. My smile froze on my face. I realized how that sounded. Possession. Entitlement. I stammered, correcting myself. "I am your future Omega." That sounded even stranger. David swept a cool, indifferent glance over me. He didn't say a word. Mr. Henderson stepped in, breaking the awkward tension. He pushed the wheelchair forward and glanced at me. "Master Joseph, please come to the study." In the study, it was just David and me. This was when he placed the bank card in front of me. Seeing me zone out, staring at the plastic card, David's voice pulled me back to reality. It sounded like it was laced with ice. "There is $10 million in this card. Use it however you like," David said. However, he stared at me coldly. "Even if we get married, I will not mark you. And it is impossible for me to fall in love with you. So, if you have any thoughts of climbing into my bed, I advise you to kill that hope immediately." I had asked around about David when I learned of the marriage. The rumors were consistent. Bad temper, keeps strangers away, and hates Omegas. It seemed the rumors were accurate. I smiled, trying to appear unbothered. Okay, mister. So yeah, I understand. It was an arranged marriage, after all. There were no feelings on either side. I couldn't blame David for not accepting me. I took the card and returned to my room. After taking a shower, I lay on the unfamiliar bed, staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed. It was Gabriel. Why aren't you at home? He asked, his voice sounding tinny through the speaker. When are you coming back? I'm waiting for you to eat. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles turning white. I'm not going back, I said softly. What do you mean? Gabriel, I'm not coming back, I repeated, my voice steady. There was silence on the other end for a few seconds, and then Gabriel laughed. Are you angry? He sighed, the sound of a man indulging a child. What is it this time? The arranged marriage or something else? I didn't argue with Gabriel often. Leaving was the first act of rebellion I had ever committed. Seeing that I remained silent, Gabriel's tone gradually became impatient. Joseph, hurry back. Don't make me say it a second time. It was always like this. Gabriel never considered my feelings. Looking around the strange, luxurious room that was now my home, I made a decision. Gabriel, let's break up. What did you say? There was a long pause, and when he spoke again, his voice was laced with anger. Joseph, what did you just say? I repeated it, emphasizing every word lightly. Gabriel, let's break up. Gabriel paused, then laughed in disbelief. Joseph, what kind of tantrum are you throwing? Get home within half an hour, and I won't hold this against you. Gabriel, I said, cutting him off. I don't want to live this kind of life anymore. You are getting married, yet you want me to continue being your underground lover. Is that appropriate? So, I want to break up with you. Before Gabriel could speak again, I hung up the phone. After that call, Gabriel didn't send me any messages or call me back. He was using his old tactic, give me the cold shoulder. He believed that if he ignored me long enough, I would eventually break down, come crawling back, and beg for reconciliation. He was used to my fawning and bowing my head. In his mind, controlling me was the easiest thing in the world. But a week passed, and I didn't contact him. Life at David's house was surprisingly peaceful. For the past week, David never came home to eat dinner with me. Even if we crossed paths in the hallway, he wouldn't take the initiative to say a word. I would greet him politely, but most of the time, I was ignored. Mrs. Higgins, the cook, comforted me privately. The young master is just like that. Don't take it to heart. I smiled and nodded. Don't worry, I won't take it to heart. Greeting David was just a matter of courtesy. Whether he responded or not didn't matter to me. Until one evening, David rarely came back to finish a meal. I ate very slowly. When David put down his chopsticks, I put mine down as well. Come home with me tomorrow, David said lightly, as if talking about the weather. I was surprised, but I didn't ask questions. Okay. The next day, I arrived at his family home with David. Only his father and his stepmother were there. David's biological mother had died when he was 10 years old. Less than half a month later, his father had welcomed his stepmother into the house. Rumors in the circle said David had a terrible relationship with his father. Now, seeing the tension in the room, I knew it was true. When David said, meet them, he meant literally just showing his face. We stayed for less than 5 minutes before leaving. No matter how his father thundered with rage behind us, David never looked back. Back in the car, David broke the silence. When you have time, go see your parents too. Since I had moved out, they hadn't contacted me once. Okay, I said. But I didn't know when that meeting would ever happen. When I was 10, my mother took me and married into Gabriel's family. Gabriel was 14 then. He knew what a stepmother meant, and he knew what bringing a drag oil bottle, like me, meant. It meant fighting for the inheritance. Gabriel disliked me intensely. Once, in the middle of the night while I was sleeping, he threw a live mouse onto my bed. I woke up screaming, crying until I almost suffocated. Afterward, my mother told me not to tell anyone. So, I swallowed the fear. I learned to follow her lead and try to please Gabriel. But every time, I was ignored. Until the car accident. I didn't hesitate. I threw my body over Gabriel's to protect him. My back was pierced by shattered glass. In my hazy consciousness, I saw Gabriel's eyes turn red with tears. I was in a coma for 2 days. My mother told me Gabriel guarded my bedside the entire time. Later, Gabriel stopped ignoring me. His attitude changed drastically. He took the initiative to care for me, to comfort me when I was sad. Our relationship became closer and closer. In my freshman year of college, he confessed to me. We began a 3-year underground romance. No one knew. I asked Gabriel why we couldn't go public. He smiled gently at me and said, "Don't rush. We will go public when the time is right." Because of that sentence, I waited and waited. But what I waited for was Gabriel telling his friends he was just playing around. And finally, his engagement to Lucas. For the next few days, David stayed at home. I asked Mr. Henderson privately, and he didn't hide it. He said David's rut period, a time of intense biological aggression and need for alphas, was approaching. He would be home all week. Mr. Henderson's tone was heavy, carrying a warning. However, Master Joseph, do not think about things you shouldn't. Last time, an Omega who didn't know better tried to use pheromones to seduce the young master into marking him during his rut. That person is now serving others in a very different capacity. David really was ruthless. I forced a smile. Don't worry, I won't. That night, just as I was getting ready to sleep, a huge noise from next door startled me awake. I remembered that David's room was right there. The entire second floor was just me and David. Should I go take a look? As soon as the thought appeared, Mr. Henderson's warning played in my mind like a demon's whisper. I dismissed the idea immediately. It was simple. I didn't want to die. The 10 million David gave me wasn't spent yet. But time passed and Mr. Henderson didn't come upstairs. I lay there staring at the ceiling. Finally, I rolled out of bed. My logic was simple. If something happened to David, I would have to leave this house, and I had nowhere to go. I reached the door, then turned back. I took several high-strength scent blockers from my drawer and plastered them over the gland on the back of my neck. If David really was in a rut, I needed protection. I walked to David's door and knocked twice. No response. Mr. Sia, are you all right? I asked, knocking again. After a long time, I heard David's voice, strained and guttural. Get out. It sounded like he was dying. I hesitated for only 2 seconds. I took a deep breath, turned the handle, and walked in. The room was saturated with pheromones. It felt like a physical weight, a mountain pressing down on me, making it nearly impossible to breathe. It was the scent of ice and sandalwood, cold, sharp, and overwhelming. I gritted my teeth and stepped further inside. I found David collapsed on the floor, struggling to push himself up. His forehead was covered in a sheen of sweat. I told you to get out, didn't you hear me? David's eyes were scarlet. The pheromones of a prime alpha in rut were aggressive, choking the air from my lungs. I walked over and reached out to help him up. I heard you, I grunted. David was panting, and so was I. He was heavy. I managed to get him into his wheelchair. He seemed delirious, drifting in and out of rationality, but he didn't forget to warn me. Who told you to come? David snarled. Joseph, I warned you. Don't imagine you can use this low-level method to get me to mark you. I nodded like a bobblehead. Mr. Sia, rest assured, I have no such intentions. As I spoke, my gaze inadvertently fell on David's legs. 3 years ago, David had collided with a speeding car on a viaduct. Because the rescue was delayed, his nerves were severed. He would never stand again. That report was still circulating online. Seeing me look at his legs seemed to touch his reverse scale, his trigger point. You think I'm pitiful, don't you? I snapped back to reality and apologized instinctively. I'm sorry, Mr. Sia, I didn't mean that. Get out. David grabbed the phone from the side table and smashed it against the wall. It shattered. I said, get out. I didn't dare move. The surrounding pheromones were seeping into every pore of my skin, making my head spin. Disregarding whether David would kill me, I grabbed a syringe of inhibitor from the table. I was about to inject it into his arm when he moved with impossible speed. He grabbed my neck and yanked me forward. Then he bit down. David's teeth brutally tore through the blockers on my neck, piercing the gland beneath. He ignored my struggles, injecting his aggressive pheromones directly into my system. The unfamiliar biological cocktail flooded me, making my limbs go weak and my scalp tingle. David, let go of me. I struggled, hitting his shoulders. Let go. David's hand was like a soldering iron, clamped around my throat. No matter how I struggled, he didn't loosen his grip by a millimeter. He continued to pour pheromones into my gland, triggering my own heat cycle in response. Using the last of my strength, I grabbed the needle that had fallen on the floor and stabbed it viciously into his hand. David roared and let go. I dragged my jelly-like legs and ran. I slammed my door, my chest heaving violently. Once I caught my breath, I found my own suppressants and gave myself a shot. The next morning, I woke up with my glands swollen and throbbing. The blockers couldn't even cover the bite mark. I went downstairs. David was already sitting at the dining table. Hearing my footsteps, he slowly looked up. He seemed barely normal again. I froze in place. We held a stalemate for half a minute before I stepped forward, greeted him stiffly, and sat down. I ate my breakfast in silence, head bowed. My gland was still aching. Even without looking at David, I could feel his intense gaze burning into me. I suddenly regretted going into his room last night. Joseph, David suddenly called my name. He said, "I bit you last night." I couldn't figure out the meaning behind his words, so I just nodded. Meeting my blank gaze, he scoffed lightly, a touch of mockery flashing in his eyes. "Your pheromones are useful to me." I didn't understand. David continued, "In the future, during my rut, you will comfort me. I will give you money. However, the same words apply. Don't delusionally think I will completely mark you, and don't think I will fall in love with you." Now I understood. He wanted me to be a human suppressor. An unloved one at that. I thought about it and agreed. After all, the man gave me $10 million. And it was just borrowing some pheromones. Gabriel's engagement ceremony was set for 3 days later. He announced it in the family group chat, so I would see it. He was doing it on purpose. I replied, "Congratulations." The group fell into a dead silence. Gabriel couldn't hold back anymore. He sent me a private message. "It's been almost half a month. How long are you going to keep making a scene? Is running away from home fun? Joseph, do you think you're impressive? Marriage is not something I can decide. What do you want me to do? Refuse the marriage and marry you? What would your mother think? What would everyone else think?" I looked at it for a second, then turned off my phone. Gabriel was right. He couldn't marry me. If we really got married, my mother would be mocked for using her son to stabilize her position in a wealthy family. The Shin family would lose face. So, it was impossible for us to be together. But I didn't understand. If that was the case, why did he start a relationship with me in the first place? The next day, I woke up to find Gabriel had called me dozens of times. I cleared the notifications. I didn't have time to play these deep affection games with him. After washing up, I knocked on David's door. Every morning now, I had to comfort David. He called it comforting, but actually, it was letting him bite me. David's pheromones were manic and unstable. I learned later it was due to trauma from his childhood and the accident. Ordinary omega pheromones couldn't soothe him. Only mine worked. Gabriel was like a dog with a bone. If I ignored him, he eagerly pasted himself to me. He acted as if allowing me to apologize was a gift, and if I did, he would forgive me immediately. I found it annoying. I blocked him. On the day of Gabriel's engagement, David went with me. Gabriel saw me standing next to David and frowned slightly. He wanted to say something, but didn't open his mouth. Lucas, dressed in a custom white suit, came over. He smiled politely and greeted us. His probing gaze fell on me. "You must be Joseph, right?" It wasn't strange that Lucas knew me. In this circle, my background had been discussed behind my back extensively. I nodded. Lucas's smile widened. "Shin's younger brother. I heard him mention you. I thought you wouldn't come to our engagement party." I smiled and said, "My brother is getting engaged. How could his younger brother not come?" David stood beside me with a cold face, radiating an aura that could freeze a person to death. Sensing his impatience, I handed the gift to Lucas. "Happy engagement to you both." Under Gabriel's gaze, I pushed David's wheelchair and turned to leave. I pretended not to notice Gabriel's changing expression. When we reached a less crowded area, I stopped. "Mr. Sia, are you feeling uncomfortable?" David was technically still in his rut period. Normally, he should be at home. But since our marriage arrangement was an open secret in the upper class, not coming would have looked bad. David said lightly, "No." I breathed a sigh of relief. "Then, since you are okay here, I'm going to use the restroom." As soon as I came out of the bathroom, Gabriel, who had been waiting, grabbed my arm and dragged me into an empty private room. His face was full of hostility. "Joseph, why did you block me?" Gabriel questioned angrily. I frowned and said calmly, "Because you're annoying." "I'm annoying?" Gabriel looked incredulous. He took a deep breath. Are you still angry with me? Joseph, marriage is a big deal, not something you or I can decide. Do you understand? I said. Gabriel, I'm not angry. Hearing my words, he seemed unable to hold back his frustration any longer. Not angry. He pointed at the door. Then what is your relationship with him? Do you know who he is? David Sia is the heir of the Sia family. Is he someone you can climb up to? Besides, he has a fiancée. By doing this, are you trying to be a homewrecker? I pushed Gabriel away and looked up at him directly. What about you? You wanted me to continue being your underground lover while you got married. Doesn't that make me the other man? Gabriel was speechless. A flash of guilt crossed his face. That's different. What's different? And he is not someone else. I paused, my voice firm. He is my alpha. Gabriel's face changed slightly. His eyes revealed disbelief. What did you say? David is your alpha. He started laughing. Joseph, if you're going to make up a reason, make up a decent one. How could David possibly be your alpha? That's not funny. I didn't want to talk nonsense with him anymore. I pushed past him to leave, but Gabriel grabbed me. Joseph, stop making a fuss. I shook off his hand impatiently and said, word by word, Gabriel, I am not making a fuss. He wanted to say more, but his phone rang. It was Lucas. Yeah, it's nothing. I met an old friend and chatted for a bit. I'm coming over now. He hung up and looked down at me condescendingly. Wait until the engagement party is over. I'll apologize to you properly then. Joseph, be obedient. With that, he turned and left without looking back. When I returned, David was already impatient. I thought you were planning to object to the wedding, he said, his tone light but mocking. David had investigated me thoroughly. I wasn't surprised he knew about my history with Gabriel. But the man truly had a poisonous tongue. We didn't stay long after the ceremony. My stepfather and biological mother had eyes only for Gabriel and David. They pulled David into a conversation for a long time, completely ignoring me standing right next to him. That was fine by me. David sent me home in a separate car because he had to go to the company. At midnight, I was starving, so I got up to find a midnight snack. Passing David's room, I noticed he wasn't back yet. The study light was off. It was 12:30 a.m. David never slept this late. Just as I got downstairs, the front door burst open. David's assistant, a young man named Paul, pushed David inside in a panic. The veins on David's hands were bulging as he gripped the armrests of his wheelchair. The top 2 buttons of his shirt were ripped open. They rushed upstairs. Less than a minute later, Paul came tumbling back down. He saw me and looked like he had seen a savior. Hello? You are Mr. Ciez Omega, right? I'm his assistant, Paul. I was a bit confused. I guess so. Paul's eyes lit up. Mr. Ciez is not feeling well, but he won't let me touch him. Can you go up and take care of him? Please. It seemed David was really in trouble. Paul was frantic, so I agreed. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. When I went upstairs, I found David lying on the bed, seemingly sleeping restlessly. My hand reached out to check his temperature, but before I could touch him, David grabbed my wrist in a vice grip. He opened his eyes. His skin was burning hot. Get out. His voice was hoarse. Do you have a fever? Are you uncomfortable? I'll call a doctor, I said. Get out. I was speechless. If you want me to get out, let go of me first. Are you uncomfortable because of your rut again? His cycle hadn't ended yet, and he had insisted on going out to work. He deserved this. I reached back and peeled off the scent blocker on my neck. The scent of wild roses wound its way around David, soft and lingering. I bent down. Mr. Sia, please bite me. David's breathing was heavy. His hot breath tickled my ear. He didn't move for a long time. Just as I was about to pull back, he grabbed my neck and pressed me down hard. He bit into my gland with a ferocity that was stronger than ever before. After a long time, I realized something was wrong. David licked the wound, then bit down again. Usually, he never bit for this long. And his pheromones, they felt out of control. I was scared. David didn't speak. His chaotic pheromones drilled into my gland desperately. I struggled to get up, but he pinned me down, immobile. My eyes filled with tears from the pain. David, let go of me. But David turned a deaf ear. He continued to inject pheromones. Soon, my body grew hot. He was triggering my heat again. If this continued, we would both lose control. I struggled harder. David finally let go of my neck. Then, rip. My clothes were torn open. David had incredible arm strength. He grabbed my waist and slammed me onto the mattress. He rolled over, pressing me down, his eyes swirling with lust and instinct. David's legs were paralyzed, but other parts of him worked just fine. And Mr. Yeah, I'm Joseph, I stammered, trying to use language to call back his reason. But there was none. The moment he entered me, tears of pain rolled down my face. When dawn was breaking, I dragged my broken body back to my room. Mr. Henderson was standing at the top of the stairs. He looked shocked to see me coming out of David's room. Please don't tell Mr. See about this, I whispered hoarsely. He's fine now. You can go in and help him clean up. I returned to my room and collapsed. When I woke up, I was in the hospital on an 4 drip. Mr. Henderson told me he had found me burning up with a high fever and rushed me here. Fortunately, David didn't know. I reached up and touched the back of my neck. The gland stung. It was a permanent mark. Both my gland and my body ached terribly. I checked my phone. Gabriel had changed his number to text me, and he was tagging me in the group chat. A pile of messages. My phone lagged for a moment. With a cold face and great patience, I blocked him again. I lay in the hospital for 2 days. When I returned to the mansion, I bumped into David just as he was preparing to go out. Seeing him, a flash of fear struck me. The memories of that night flooded back. David frowned. You, Mr. Yeah, I'm not feeling well. I'm going to my room. I didn't look at him, hurrying up the stairs. I avoided David for 2 days. Every time I saw him, it was like seeing a ghost. I wished I could teleport away. Are you afraid of me? David looked up from his book in the living room. It was a question, but from his mouth, it sounded like a statement. I paused, then shook my head. No, Mr. Yeah. Really? David pointed to the seat next to him. Sit here. I didn't know what kind of madness had seized him. I hesitated, then resigned myself to fate and sat down. I could smell the faint scent of sandalwood on him. My mother called me while I was sitting there. She didn't say much at first, just silence for a long time. Then she said, Joseph, Gabriel is engaged now. You shouldn't contact him anymore, okay? My head buzzed. My throat felt like it had been burned. It took a long time before I could ask dryly, you knew? Listen to Mom. She didn't answer my question. You two aren't suitable. I pulled the corner of my mouth into a mocking smile. The secret Gabriel had tried so hard to keep had been seen through long ago. Okay. Don't worry, I won't disturb him. I won't contact him. My mother sighed with relief. That's good. After hanging up, I looked out the window calmly. From beginning to end, she didn't ask if I was adapting well here, or if I was living well. She only worried about Gabriel. Later that week, Gabriel came to the CM mansion to find me. Seeing him, I just felt annoyed. What do you want? Gabriel didn't expect me to be so direct. He was stunned for a moment, then reacted with an accusation. Why did you block my number? Do you know how many messages I sent? How many calls I made? It's fine if you don't reply, but blocking me? So, I asked. Is that it? Now Gabriel was finally impatient. What exactly do you want? I've humbled myself. I've explained everything to you, and you're still making a scene? This was the real Gabriel. The good temper was a fake. In reality, he had no patience for me. Once he realized he couldn't control me, his true nature was exposed. I'm not making a scene, Gabriel. Gabriel raised his voice. Then what do you mean by breaking up? What do you mean by getting married? No reason. I just want to break up, I said. And the marriage is my own business. It has nothing to do with you. Gabriel couldn't persuade me. His face turned completely ugly. He took out a cigarette and lit it, smoking for a while. Fine. You want to break up. He sneered, blowing out a smoke ring. Then let's break up. I want to see how long you can last. Joseph, don't come begging me later. I won't be soft-hearted. No one bothered me after that. I actually lived quite freely, except for David's occasional behavior which I couldn't figure out. Like now. A bank SMS notification popped up, $20 million deposited. Looking at the zeros, I was shocked. The Shin family had money, but I had never seen it spent on me. Adding the $10 million David gave me before, I now had $30 million. I thought about it, and went upstairs to ask David. Mister, see this money. Is it for me? David looked down at a document. Hearing this, he looked up. Is it too little? I shook my head hurriedly. No, it's too much. David glanced at me lightly, then lowered his head again. His voice was flat. You comforting me was a big help. In the future, I will give you a sum of money regularly. But other than money, there is nothing else. Meaning, you can have money, but no feelings. I understand, mister. Yeah, I said. David paused. Cut off ties with the people outside. I have no need to wear a green hat. I was confused for a moment before realizing he meant Gabriel. I have nothing to do with him, mister. Yeah, that's best. I counted the days. Gabriel hadn't contacted me for over a month. Aside from the last time, my mother hadn't messaged to ask about me either. Instead, she frequently contacted David to get business projects. I had been here for almost 3 months. It felt like a dream. I went downstairs. Mrs. Higgins greeted me, asking if I wanted something light to eat. I nodded. Yes, please, Mrs. Higgins. She looked at my face closely, distressed. Your face has lost weight. These days, I felt like I was possessed. I couldn't eat anything, and I wanted to vomit. If I did eat, I threw it up in the middle of the night. I was also constantly sleepy. I sighed, planning to find time to go to the hospital for a checkup. Mrs. Higgins turned away, muttering, These symptoms look just like pregnancy. My heart jumped. But then I dismissed it. David had no fertility. I couldn't be pregnant. In the afternoon, David came back. Mr. Henderson said David needed to go check his gland and suggested I get a checkup too. When the results came out, I froze. The report in my hand stated clearly, pregnant. I stared blankly. Wasn't David supposed to be sterile? Joseph? A familiar voice came from behind. I turned to see Gabriel. What? Stalking me all the way to the hospital? I asked. Gabriel looked smug until his gaze fell on the report in my hand. He snatched it away. Seeing the words, his face turned grotesque. You're pregnant? He gritted his teeth, eyes red. Whose is it? David's. Joseph, how dare you? I frowned, taking a subtle step back. What does it have to do with you? This sentence seemed to stimulate Gabriel's nerves. We were together for 3 years, and I never slept with you. Now, how much time has passed, and you're pregnant? Joseph, how dare you? I wasn't surprised Gabriel would say such things. Gabriel, your words are funny. He is my alpha. Is it not normal for me to carry his child? Gabriel roared. Everyone knows David is sterile. Joseph, are you crazy? Just then, David was pushed over by Paul. He glanced at me and Gabriel. He held his phone in his hand. The screen was still lit. The moment the results came out, the electronic report had been sent to his phone. I ignored Gabriel. I just felt doomed. Admit it or deny it. On the first day I entered the Sia house, David warned me. He wouldn't mark me. But now, not only had he permanently marked me, but I was also pregnant. Clutching the pregnancy test, I was at a loss. Mr. Sia, listen to my explanation. Someone else's? David looked up, his voice morose. I looked up at Mr. Henderson behind David. The butler's mouth was tighter than a stone vault. He hadn't snitched on me yet. Before I could explain, David spoke first, glancing lightly at Gabriel. Mr. Shun, if there is nothing else, we have family matters to deal with. Lucas's voice called out from not far away. Gabriel gritted his teeth, gave me a complicated look, and had to leave. In the car, I confessed everything about that night. David closed his eyes and didn't speak. Just as I was feeling anxious, he opened them and turned to me. You had a fever because I marked you? More than that. That night, our pheromones had entangled madly. He had no restraint. He took me over and over. I cried and begged for mercy, but he didn't let me go. I didn't know why David hadn't thrown me out of the car yet, but I nodded. The car remained completely silent. When we got home, I consciously packed my luggage. I had very few things. With $30 million, I could go anywhere. I didn't want to wait for David to kick me out personally. I was running away with the ball. When David found me, his face was black as thunder. Mr. Henderson, who had seen many big scenes, simply threw David into my rented apartment and walked away. And Mr. Sia? I stammered, standing up from my chair in terror. David had come to settle the score. You still recognize me? David's voice was cold enough to freeze water. Do you know how long I've been looking for you? Running away with my child. Joseph, you have a lot of nerve. David was wrong. My nerve was small. My legs were shaking. I decided to stay silent. David said coldly, Shouldn't you explain yourself to me? Explain? Explain what? The matter of running away with my child. David stared at me. Don't you owe me an explanation? I felt like a mute. All words were stuck in my throat. Finally, I squeezed out a sentence. Mr. Sia, didn't you say you didn't want this child? David was silent for a moment. He looked up. Did I tell you that personally? No, I admitted. But your attitude at the time showed you didn't want it. During the silence, the door opened. My friend Caleb walked in carrying bags. Joseph, I brought you some supplements. You're pregnant, you need. Caleb saw David. Who is he? Before I could speak, David said darkly, I am his alpha, the father of the child in his belly. Who are you? Hearing the word alpha made my heart complicate. When I was with Gabriel, he never admitted our relationship. I was always brother. Later, hearing Gabriel's voice made me block him without hesitation. But hearing David claim me, my heart felt like it was soaked in soda water, sour and expanding. Caleb looked at me for confirmation. Seeing me mute, he suddenly got angry. So you're the scumbag? David was confused. What did you say? Caleb wanted to say more, but I pushed him out. Caleb, go back first. Thank you for the things. I'll call you after I solve this. Caleb looked at David with hostility, but couldn't refuse me. Okay, Joseph. Call me if you need anything. Okay. Only David and I were left. David frowned. Who is he? Joseph, are you looking for a new father for my child? My stomach felt uncomfortable. Omegas need alpha pheromones during pregnancy. I had stolen one of David's shirts when I ran, sniffing it when I felt bad. But the scent had faded. Mr. Sia, weren't you going to kick me out? So I left on my own. I sat on the sofa, feeling nauseous. Don't worry, I won't disturb you. David's brow furrowed. When did I say I was going to kick you out? I paused. I violated our agreement. Not only did I let you mark me permanently, but I also got pregnant with your child. According to David's words, I was shameless. Joseph, David interrupted me, his dark eyes fixed on me. Who was that man just now? A friend. He's married. Why did he come to give you things? David was relentless. Was it my illusion, or was David jealous? It was weird. David, looking sour, ripped off his scent blocker. His pheromones wrapped around me, soothing my distress. My stomach settled. His omega thought my alpha died, so he took extra care of me, I explained. David stared at me. You told people I was dead? I shook my head vigorously. I didn't. After calming me down, David retracted his pheromones. Joseph, come back with me. I was stunned. David kept a straight face. Your child needs me. But you said. I didn't say it, David interrupted. Oh, in the end, I didn't go back with David immediately. He moved into my apartment. An hour later, Mr. Henderson packed David's luggage and delivered it, then left gracefully. I looked at David. I can't take care of you here. I don't need you to take care of me, David said. Take care of yourself. At night, David slept outside my door, releasing pheromones so I could sleep well. I slept great. David, however, ended up with dark circles under his eyes for 3 days. I decided we needed to talk. You agreed to the marriage to deal with your family. I violated the terms. Mr. Sia, if you don't want to continue this marriage, don't force yourself. I won't use the child to threaten you. David's hand on the wheelchair paused. You want to cancel the marriage? I was about to say no, but David said coldly, I disagree. I was surprised. Joseph, I am your alpha. I will be responsible for you. David spoke solemnly. I hope you can also give me a chance. But you don't like me. Joseph, give me some time. I swallowed my words. Okay. A week later, David proposed going abroad to get our marriage certificate to make it official. During these days, he had continued to sleep outside my door, filling the hallway with sandalwood scent. I asked him, won't you reconsider? No need to reconsider. That day, we took a private jet and got the certificate. We were legally bound. I thought it was a whim, but Mr. Henderson told me privately that David had been considering it since the hospital. When he came home and found me gone, he had flown into a rage and even went to confront Gabriel. Mr. Henderson sighed. Mr. Joseph, the young master has never been loved. He doesn't know what love is. Perhaps he has fallen for you long ago and just doesn't know it. He treats you differently. That day, he had stayed in my room for a long time. But that didn't prove love. At most, it was difference. I touched the ring on my finger. David had put it on me an hour before we signed the papers. He couldn't kneel to propose. He just said, I will be responsible for you. If you dislike me, you can still regret it now. I didn't say anything. I just pushed him into the bureau. We became legal husbands. That night, my heat came fiercely. David lay beside me, the room filled with his pheromones mingling with mine. David, I'm hot. Pregnancy made the heat difficult. I wrapped my arms around his neck. Bite me. David, though paralyzed in the legs, had strong arms from rehabilitation. He pulled me close with one arm, lowered his head, and bit down. It wasn't enough. I panted, help me. David closed his eyes and said hoarsely, okay. He couldn't move his lower body, but I could move. In the end, I had no strength left and fell asleep on his chest. Half a month later, we returned home. Gabriel was standing outside the gate, blocking the car. He was here for me. Do you want to see him? David asked. Some things should be made clear. I nodded. I'll wait for you inside. I got out of the car, and Gabriel walked quickly toward me. Joseph, I didn't marry Lucas. I called it off. I was stunned. Gabriel, are you crazy? Aren't you happy? Gabriel grabbed my hand. Joseph, come back with me. I don't care whose child is in your belly. Just come back. I pulled my hand away. He looked at me calmly, hurt flashing in his eyes. I won't go back with you, I said calmly. I've already registered my marriage with David. Gabriel stared at me blankly, then started to laugh. Joseph, are you joking? You're doing this to make me angry, right? I'm not trying to anger you, Gabriel. I really got the certificate. I whispered, whether you believe it or not, David and I are legal. Gabriel was silent for a moment, his eyes reddening. What about me? You are the past. Don't come looking for me again, Gabriel. Why? He needed an answer. I thought for a moment. Externally, he doesn't hide our relationship. He doesn't embarrass me. Although he looks cold, he treats me well. More importantly, he gives me a choice. He doesn't force me. That's it. That is enough. When I was 5 months pregnant, David went to the hospital. Not for his gland, but for his legs. The result was the same. He would sit in a wheelchair forever. Joseph, do you want a divorce? He asked, defeated. My heart felt like it was being pinched. No divorce. I stiffened my neck. I won't divorce. He smiled bitterly and rubbed my neck. But I will never stand up. Since returning, he had seen many doctors. Nothing worked. David, it doesn't matter. I will take care of you. David finally smiled. A genuine smile. I can't bear to let you go. I didn't tell David that I saw him smoking on the balcony in the middle of the night, hating himself for being crippled. I wanted to leave him some dignity. That night, lying in David's arms, I asked him, is your feeling for me responsibility? David was silent for a long time. No. I paused. Then is it love? He lowered his head and kissed my hair. This question has been troubling me. I didn't know if it was responsibility or love. But now, I seem to have found the answer. Joseph, it is love. I deliberately teased him. But you told me not to delusionally think you would fall in love with me. David looked helpless. I was wrong. I hooked my lips into a smile and sat up to kiss him. That's good then. Let's be bound together like this. Forever bound together.